New overnight, President Biden is expected to announce plans to limit the methane allowed to come from oil and gas rigs across the United States, in a signal that the United States is serious about fighting climate change. Diana Olick joins us right now, live from Glasgow.
Well, Becky, the announcement is out. The EPA will propose new regulations to strengthen methane emissions reduction for new oil and gas facilities, which are responsible for 30% of total methane emissions. The U.S. is also working in partnership with the EU to lead a global methane pledge to reduce overall methane emissions by 30% below 2020 levels. In addition, it will require states to develop plans to reduce methane emissions from existing sources. That's an estimated 300,000 oil and gas well sites, specifically regulating methane leaks. Now, the proposed requirements would reduce emissions from these sources by about 75%. That's according to administration officials. President Biden will make remarks on that later today, but he started this morning announcing a decade-long effort to conserve forests and coastal ecosystems that serve as critical carbon sinks. Sinks absorb carbon as opposed to emitting carbon. It includes dedicating up to $9 billion by 2030, subject, of course, to congressional approval.
Preserving forests and other ecosystems can and should play an important role in meeting our ambitious climate goals as part of the net zero emissions strategy we all have. And the United States is going to lead by our example at home and support other forested nations and developing countries in setting and achieving ambitious action to conserve and restore these carbon sinks.
Now, President Biden will also make an announcement later today about a new private sector partnership to fund clean energy innovation. Back to you guys.
Diana, I've only heard a few headlines at this point, too, but I've heard there's going to be some sort of move to try and encourage farmers to also make sure that they are limiting their methane emissions. In my mind, I keep thinking that that is cow flatulence. How do you limit that? How do you kind of get your arms around that?
Well, we have actually done stories on cow flatulence, Becky. In fact, there are some researchers up in Maine who are using seaweed feed actually to help reduce those emissions from the cattle. So that's one way to do it. And there are, of course, other experiments underway to help reduce that carbon capture even on farms. But there are actually a lot of details in this plan that we don't have time to get into, but major innovations to try to reduce methane emissions, which are some of the worst greenhouse gases, the most dangerous.
Seaweed as feed. That sounds better than corks.